Section 2. On Divine Inspiration. The main corpus of Kuntres HaHispaalus, sent as an open letter to all the Chassidim in the year 5574, 1814. Part 1, 6. As I explained in my first letter, many in our Chassidic brotherhood, whether old or new, are confused and have lost their way due to several kinds of errors regarding the ways of how to receive the words of the living God in light of Torah and the service of the emotions and the heart, to the point that their understanding of it is literally the diametric opposite of the truth. Because of lack of knowledge and little occupation and practice in these matters, they call light darkness and darkness light. However, mainly these ruinous ramifications have resulted from an overabundance of expositors that make themselves out to be wise by boasting and professing, "I have the secret," etc., claiming that there are secrets to true worship that they are privy to. They thus delude themselves and others, so much so that a total error has fallen into their thinking, which is the diametric opposite of the truth. I am very greatly distressed over this because they attribute it all to me, so that many of our Chassidic brotherhood ask me advice regarding how to apply this error into practice. I find it impossible to tolerate and bear their erroneous words, which have become so established in their mind, as if they are the rule of law. This is the result of students who teach before sufficiently mastering the subject, who have branched out to drink of evil waters that kill and destroy the soul, removing it from light to total darkness, etc. Therefore I say that the mitzvah and obligation specifically falls on me to properly explain and clarify all the different matters of the service of the mind and heart, each thing in its place, level and mode in great detail. This is so that he who is prone to error will not err and will not thereby mislead his fellow. It is also to erect a firm structure in his soul in light of the Torah he receives, so that it should all be planted and rooted with a permanent root and bond that will never falter, etc. The matter may be compared to a person sitting before a bowl full of delightfully healthy foods which revive the soul, but who lacks a spoon to bring it to his mouth. He could expire from longing solely because he lacks a utensil with which to hold it, etc. So it is regarding the true teachings on Hitbonenut meditation and the knowledge of the divine, which my father, master, teacher, and rabbi of blessed memory, whose soul reposes in Eden, bequeathed to us, each person according to his capacity. This may be so even though a person is fluent in all the teachings of Chassidus. Nonetheless, since he knows not how to assimilate it into his soul, he remains hungry and thirsty, lacking all light and vitality, until, after learning and understanding it all, he wonders of what benefit it is to him. Likewise, the exact opposite kind of person exists. For him, learning and understanding dispassionately from a distance is the essence of Chassidus, whereas assimilating it into his soul, whether through intellectual excitement or more so through emotional excitement, is absolutely forbidden. Thus he seeks and requests advice on how to rid himself of any spontaneous excitement that comes unwillingly upon him, for he considers it to be awareness of self, which to him is a cardinal sin that destroys the soul, similar to the ways of the discredited Chassidus mentioned above. Behold two extreme opposites such as these, and between them several types of intermediates of assorted levels and kinds, all of which possess errors that literally transform light into darkness. This even includes several different levels of veteran Chassidim who are expert, experienced, and wise in their own eyes as to the ultimate goal of the teachings of Chassidus. They, too, are totally lost. All this being the case, it is so very important to explain and clarify everything so that they will not hang empty pictures upon me, etc. Of essential importance is to establish and affirm the principal theme and holy intention of my father, master, teacher, and rabbi of blessed memory, whose soul reposes in Eden, in light of the teachings he revealed to us for 30 years. For the sake of all who are beloved to me, and truly seek the words of the living God, from my youth my sole aim has been that to the fullest intended extent the illumination of the life of the world be established in their souls, this being the matter of the revelation of godliness within their souls, each person according to his capacity, as is known. 7. Let me now, my opening words, shed light on the general differences between the discredited Chassidus and the Chassidus that my father, master, teacher, and rabbi of blessed memory, whose soul reposes in Aden, bequeathed unto us to illuminate our path in the light of his teachings. From the very beginning of his holy work, his principal goal, which I heard from the holy breath of his mouth, not once and not twice, was that the chief aim of all his labor on behalf of the Chassidim, to which he literally devoted his life, was solely that the revelation of godliness be revealed within their souls. This means to say that their souls should specifically be excited with godly excitement only, rather than the excitement of bodily life, which is not godly excitement at all. This, in short, is the essential intended theme which differentiates those who serve Hashem with their souls from those who serve Hashem with their bodies. Within this general principle are many varied details. Though it is well known, it is important to first properly explain the root of this general principle, because most people do not fully understand it. The matter may be understood by prefacing with the well-known explanation of the verse, "And you who adhere to Hashem your God are all alive today," from which it is understood that if not for this adhesion, deveikus, they would be considered to be dead rather than alive. A different verse also states, "To love Hashem, for he is your life." Now we cannot say that he is your life refers to love Hashem, in other words, that the love itself is your life. If that were the case, the verse would have read, "For she is your life." This being the case, why does it say he is your life? Certainly the meaning of this verse is easily understood by all, that the words "for he is your life" gives us the reason for this love. In other words, why should you love Hashem? The reason is because he is your life. However, this being the case, we could ask, why is it necessary to actively bring about an excitement of love of Hashem, if because of this adhesion to him, he already is your very life, literally? However, as known, there is a difference between the love of Hashem and adhesion to him. The general difference is only in this, that adhesion is the vitality and bond of the soul to the life of all life, the essence of Or Ein Sof, blessed be he, who is called the source of the life of all souls. As known, this is the meaning of "for he is your life," that is, literally. Therefore, in regard to the matter of adhesion, it says, "You who adhere." This means that just as a person clings to life, you who adhere to Hashem do so as a matter of course, because of the root of your soul, which has an essential and permanent bond to Hashem, rather than just an aspect of intermittent excitement of love of God. Thus, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai stated, "We are bound with one bond. I am unified in him," etc., as will be explained shortly concerning the fifth level of the divine soul, which is the aspect of the Yechida, etc. As known, this essential bond exists in the souls of all Israel, including a person whose spiritual source is only in the aspect of Nefesh of Asiyah. This is why we specifically recite the Shema Yisrael, "Listen, O Israel," the purpose of which is to give over one soul to Hashem in the first verse with the word "one." The mitzvah, "and you shall love Hashem your God," only comes afterwards in the next verse. This is the aspect of the excitement of the soul, which requires the commandment for the soul to labor in the kind of meditation that arouses love of Hashem, which is called the labor of love. This is clear and known to all. However, the main theme here is the general matter mentioned above, that the excitement should chiefly be specifically an excitement of the divine. As mentioned above, two levels are included here, adhesion to Hashem and love of Hashem. Now, the explanation of the matter is as follows. As known, there are 5 levels in the divine soul: Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida, the highest of which is the aspect of Yechida. The Yechida is the aspect of the essential bond and adhesion of the soul to Hashem, in that one permanently adheres to and is bound to Hashem, as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, "I am unified in him, I am aflame in him," etc. This level also exists in every Jew, each one according to his capacity. This needs proper explanation and clarification. We clearly observe that when any Jew, even one of humble station, who has a low and inferior soul in regard to comprehending matters of godliness and possessing good character traits, hears an explanation of any concept within the subject of divine contemplation, such as the transcendence or immanence of Hashem, etc., his soul becomes very excited. The source of this sense is the root of his soul, which is the divine aspect of his soul. This is the Yechidah level, which is higher than the soul's faculty of insight. This is the matter and aspect of a Jew's essential bond with Hashem, which is called by the term adhesion, in that the soul adheres and is drawn to Hashem because of the essential godliness in the essence of his soul. It therefore is drawn and adheres to Hashem of its own accord, just as a spark is drawn to the bonfire or the like. It is this which is called actual excitement in godliness. 8. However, apparently, an extreme error can fall into the understanding of the above explanation, because an aspect similar to this type of adhesion can actually be easily found in everyone. However, it is the exact opposite of it, since it altogether is not within the definition of divine excitement. It is readily observable that the excitement of the great mass of people is external excitement resulting from false delusions in their souls and hearts during prayer, which manifests itself in the external cry of their heart of flesh, devoid of any inner illumination or vitality. Such excitement is not directed to Hashem at all. This is because during that time there is no excitement and contemplation into godliness at all, except in a most general way, etc. And even that is not at all in a manner of the above-mentioned listening and inner drawing of the soul to Hashem. This general manner of contemplation does not at all even include an aspect of listening. This is so, even though common usage in the world is to also consider this to be adhesion or enthusiasm. However, it is a totally false adhesion, literally the opposite of the true adhesion, which is called divine excitement. Actually, it does have similarities to true adhesion, except that it is not at all adhesion directed to Hashem. Any adhesion which is not to Hashem is of no real value, as the verse states, "You who adhere to Hashem specifically are alive." Only such a person is called alive, whereas the above-mentioned external adhesion, which is not to Hashem, is actually considered to be dead. This is because his soul does not at all receive its vitality from the source from which it was hewn in godliness, etc. Instead, it is called self-worship, rather than worship of God. It does not even fall into the category of those who serve Hashem with their bodies. Those who serve Hashem with their bodies at least are still called those who serve Hashem. That constitutes an excitement of love for Hashem that specifically is a natural physical love, in that a person's natural animalistic soul also loves, etc. This accords with the simple understanding of the verse, "And you shall love Hashem your God with all your heart." The word for heart here is levavacha, rather than lev. The sages stated that the two letters bet of levavacha mean with both your inclinations, the inclination to do good and the inclination to do bad. The good inclination being a function of the divine soul, and the bad inclination being a function of the animalistic soul. Though this does not constitute the essential bond of the divine soul mentioned above, it nonetheless is called serving Hashem with the body. After all, his physical heart and flesh do become excited specifically about Hashem, the life of lives, as is written, "My heart and my flesh will sing out to the living God." The words "my flesh" mean the heart of flesh, literally. Through the excitement of the heart of flesh with a physical pleasure, he delights in Hashem, in his physical heart. There also is a higher level of this that reaches the aspect of love of delight, which is in an aspect of the above-mentioned essence of the Yechidah, as will soon be explained. The reverse of this literally is the matter of externally exciting the heart of flesh, in which one ignites and heats a strange fire within himself. This comes about solely through whipping his emotions into a froth and causing his blood to boil. This is not at all the fire of Hashem. Rather, it is solely for the sake of exposing the innate emotions of his heart and flesh with a heat of flaming fire, to overheat himself into feeling the thrill of excitement. This is an extremely great error that ultimately leads to delusions, misconceptions, and very erroneous falsehoods. As known even in worldly matters, when one gets carried away by his emotions, it can lead to terrible consequences, especially when they are self-induced. By way of jest, this is like what has been said on the verse, "Do not eat over the blood." Do not pray over your blood, which implies that one should not pray with his blood alone, but rather with the soul that is in the blood, etc. About this it states, "A fool does not desire understanding, but rather only to expose the emotions of his heart." This is well known to all. It is superfluous to lengthen on this, because it is self-understood to anyone who has truly tasted the words of the living God once or twice. His soul will greatly despise this false, mistaken path. He will find it utterly intolerable because of the coarseness and overall shallowness that eventually branches out from this alien adhesion until the person who succumbs to it finally says, "I am, and there is none besides me." This is because he becomes very aware of himself. As a result, he enters the category of arrogance and pride, similar to those who are proud of physical matters of this world, literally. Furthermore, a person who is prone to fall to this will also fall into self-love, etc., and may even be drawn into a completely strange fire, as known regarding the various kinds of pitfalls that many have fallen into, etc. The greater the attachment and adhesion of a person to the above-mentioned true aspect of divine excitement, the greater will be his disdain for this strange fire that literally opposes it. This subject is extremely subtle, having many different subtle categories of levels. Even most understanding men of knowledge cannot distinguish between all the specific categories to their ultimate depth. Rather, they can only distinguish in a general way between the physical feeling of the heart, as mentioned above, and actual divine excitement, such as in the verse, "My heart and my flesh will sing out," etc., which refers to the fact that the physical heart can be aroused to emotional feelings as a result of divine contemplation and can also become excited about Hashem, as mentioned above. This is so, even though it comes as a very tangible feeling and is actually similar to the external feelings of excitement of the physical heart when it becomes excited in and of itself, without any of the above-mentioned divine excitement. Now, the discernment of how they constitute two diametric opposites, etc., is understandable to anyone who knows the teachings of Chassidus well. However, in regard to its many details, this is hidden from most understanding men of knowledge, even the great amongst them, so much so that they literally confuse darkness for light and light for darkness. I clearly know that there are many who delude themselves by imagining that the physical excitement of their heart of flesh is a divine feeling, when in truth it is nothing more than a bodily feeling. However, without their being conscious of it, it does contain a tiny admixture of extremely concealed divine light, which, as known, is called the residue of contemplation. 9. Let me explain myself, for my intent here is not merely to expound, but to bring to light the ultimate goal of truly revealing godliness within our souls. To preface, I must bring out an example of this concept found in manuscripts that are in my possession, these being the excellent words of innocence and sweetness, the teachings of my father, master, teacher, and rabbi, of blessed memory, whose soul reposes in Aden, which explain the statement in the Holy Zohar on the verse in Ezekiel, "And behold a man whose appearance was like that of copper, and a flaxen cord, and a measuring reed were in his hand," etc. The Zohar comments, the first covering of holy colours, which covered the Mishkan, its number came up to 32. Its length was 28 and its width was 4. The second outer covering, which covered this one, came up to the number 34. The goatskin curtains were 30 in length and 4 in width, etc. This was lesser but higher, and this was higher but lesser, etc. See the copy of the explanations on this, which I have in manuscript form. This entire matter can essentially be understood from them in all the particulars of its categories, literally because through them the distillation of the subject may be understood. That is, that the essential difference between the side of holiness and the side of Noga is that in holiness the aspect of the vessel, which is the somethingness of the light, is in an aspect of total self-nullification, whereas in Noga the vessel is a tangible somethingness, with much more in excess of the principle. However, this gain is actually a loss, etc. The explanation of this matter may be understood from the matter of the kindness of the nations is sin. This is because in the nations the good light of kindness is separate from Hashem. Therefore its vessel, which is its somethingness, spreads out to a greater degree than the aspect of its light. Actually, this gain is a loss, so much so that it is called sin. Similarly, the sages said, the righteous speak little and do much. The explanation is that speaking is the aspect of the vessel that reveals. Speaking little is the aspect of self-nullification, etc. However, they do much. On the other hand, the opposite is true of the wicked. They say much in an aspect of arrogance and the spreading out of the somethingness of the vessel. But they do little, because of the loss of divine illumination, etc., as mentioned above. We literally see a similar thing in the whole matter of the excessive exaggeration that is observable in the external, delusionary excitement of the external heart of flesh mentioned above. This comes about from the aspect of the spreading of the somethingness of Noga, which is an utter loss of inner illumination to the point that it turns from good to bad, heaven forbid, etc. The opposite is true of the divine spark of the side of holiness. Even the aspect of somethingness felt in the heart of flesh mentioned above comes in a way of utter self-nullification, that is, with a total absence of awareness of self, etc. Furthermore, the degree of how great the absence of self-awareness is comes about according to the gain of additional light and vitality, etc. This general distinction is clearly observable to all those who know the words of the living God well, and is the root of the above-mentioned general distinction. Now, to know all the indicators of how to recognize these characteristics within oneself to the finest details of levels and their categories, so that one will not delude himself, it is necessary to first understand the root cause of the matter of the total absence of self-awareness during true divine excitement which is felt in the heart of flesh, etc. At first glance, it seems impossible to believe that a feeling which is the absolute absence of feeling, such as this, could exist, since this would entail two opposites existing simultaneously in one thing. To understand this, we must preface with the subject of what melody is. The adage that Moses, the faithful shepherd, used to sing all kinds of melodies during his prayers is well known, etc. He did this because his soul included all 600,000 souls of Israel, and each soul, when it ascends into the root source from which it was hewn, does so specifically through song. This is the aspect of the above-mentioned essential excitement, with a love of delights, according to the manner of its root above, in the supernal delight. That person who included all 600,000 souls was Moses, the faithful shepherd. As explained elsewhere, this is why he sang all kinds of melodies. Firstly, we must understand what is meant here by the excitement of melody. This is specifically a spontaneous activation of melody without any intellectual choice or will altogether. It is an excitement which simultaneously is felt and not felt within him, since it does not come from him intending to bring about excitement. Rather, it is reflexive and automatic in that he is not conscious of it, since at that very moment it is as if he altogether does not feel or is conscious of it. Therefore, it is considered to be the total absence of feeling his self-being. Nonetheless, it is a felt excitement. This may be understood by way of example from the spontaneous excitement of great joy that a person has when very good news and the like reaches him. Certainly, the excitement could be so felt in his heart that he may make strong automatic and involuntary gestures, such as clapping his hands, as is well known. This takes place without choosing or intending it. Rather, he claps involuntarily and automatically, and this itself the indicator that he is not at all aware of himself being excited, though it is felt in the heart. However, it is as if he is totally unaware of it. This is because it is genuine excitement resulting only from the good thing itself that his soul is bound to. He then does not at all feel his excitement because he never intended to become excited. Rather, the excitement is automatic, so much so that it is possible that he is completely unaware of it. This is also similar to what we observe in the opposite emotion, that when a person is angry, he is neither aware of nor does he feel his excitability, etc. The opposite is true of excitement that results from intending it first, such as one who belabors himself with much contemplation until he becomes excited. Here his principal intention is solely for the excitement, and he anticipates and hopes for it, wondering when it will come about. He will be anguished if it does not, and will rejoice when it does come, if it is felt well with heated passion as he desires, and he will be anguished if it is not as passionate as he would have liked, etc. Now, most members of our Chassidic brotherhood are very confused in this regard. One will state this opinion and another will state the opposite, etc. One will completely prohibit excitement and another will permit it. Furthermore, there are intermediate opinions between these two extremes. It therefore is necessary to properly explain and clarify this subject, because it is the general axis and foundation for receiving the words of the living God during prayer, etc.